When you create a simulation, you're often doing it in order to answer some type of question. For instance, what will a given set of parameters do to the simulation? Or what's the best set of parameters to maximize or minimize a given metric? You can find those answers by hand, or you can create experiments which will run multiple simulation runs and test out different parameters for each one. Doing that, you can then compare the runs and see what the outcomes were, or use the hash optimization engine to automatically find the set of parameters that will best maximize or minimize that metric of interest. To use experiments, you can define them by hand in experiments.json, or you can use our experiment wizard. In the experiment wizard, you'll select the type of experiment, set a name for it, the number of steps it should run for, and the field of interest that you want to vary. The fields are your global parameters, and these can be toggled manually, or with the experiments feature, you can set different values that will exist for the field in separate runs. So for instance, if you had 1, 2, and 3 here, it'll create 3 different runs where the parameter for run 1 is value 1, parameter 2, run 2 is value 2, etc. Now, not every type of experiment has that setup. Value sweeping is going to use the values you define in this field for each run. Linear space sweeping is going to sweep through a range of value options. A-range sweeping will sample it. Monte Carlo sweeping will sample from a distribution you define. And then group and multi-parameter are, as they sound like, group will run collections of these, and multi-parameter allow you to define multiple fields to vary. The final option, optimization, is a little bit different. This uses the hash optimization engine and requires that you run it on our cloud for performance reasons. What will happen is hash will automatically run a number of different runs. You can set the max number here, but it will run a number of runs to find the set of parameters that best maximize a metric that you've also defined. So metrics, switching back for a moment to our regular view here, metrics are defined in the analysis view, which you can get to up here, or in analysis.json. The metrics are going to be things like the number of trees in this case, or the number of the age of the trees, the number of parts of the simulation that are on fire, etc. It'll be different for each simulation, but using the optimization engine, you can find the set of experiments that is going, the set of parameters that will either maximize or minimize that metric. So if our metric is the number of trees and we want to maximize it, well, maybe then we should have a very low chance of lightning. And depending upon which one you select and the range of values you put in, the hash engine will search through all the different runs. It will highlight the run that has the best outcome for that metric. As I mentioned, the optimization experiments need to be run on the hash cloud, but the other experiments can be run either locally or on the hash cloud. And you'll see optimization experiments are grayed out, while these other ones are still available to run when it's inactive. Just click again to reestablish a connection with the cloud. So if we give this a go, we'll see that in the right-hand sidebar in our activity view, we can see the runs being populated, and it'll highlight which objective we're trying to maximize or minimize. And then as these complete, they'll show up here, and we can then hover over them to learn more about the parameters. Now we can click on an individual run and find the metrics that best optimized it. You can explore the different runs or see them all together in a collated view. Other experiments will have slightly different interfaces, but largely follow the same pattern. The runs will show up on the right-hand side, and you can then compare and contrast.